What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Friday, September 15th, 2023, and I have another emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now, it is 4:35 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States. I wanted to give you an update on the B-52 nuclear bomber that was patrolling the Romanian Black Sea coast. And I want to also share some more breaking news. So, what you're looking at here is a live map of all of the flights in Europe. And here we have the B 52 currently flying over northern Greece. And we also have an AWACS plane flying over the Romanian Black Sea coast right now. So the B 52 is basically on its way back to base, which is Sigonella on the island of Sicily in Italy. So here's that B 52 flying over Thessaloniki in Greece right now. But it looks like it completed two loops over the Romanian Black Sea coast. You could see it did some loops here around Constanta, and then it did a bunch of loops near the Danube Delta. And this is where the U.S. has been sending sub hunter planes for the last year or so. Basically, since the war has started, they've been sending sub hunters in this area. Those are the P-8 Poseidons. And this is also the area where those Russian suicide drones crashed on Romanian territory. They crashed right here near this little village of Nufaru, which, as you can see, is quite far from the Ukrainian border, which is right over here. So, about 10 miles into Romania, one of the drones crashed, and this is where that B 52 was flying this afternoon. This is extremely unusual, guys. The last time I've seen B 52s in Romania was a few months ago when I think it was two of them flew all the way to the Danube River here, the Ukrainian Romanian border, and then turned around and came back. But they didn't actually hang out for a few hours like the B 52 did today. So it did two loops. And right now we have an AWACS plane doing a large loop here along the Romanian Black Sea coast. And in addition to these planes, we also have a sub hunter plane patrolling the Polish Baltic coast near Kaliningrad. This is the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad, which is a Russian province sandwiched between Lithuania and Poland. And they've been monitoring this area with sub hunters for the last week or so, basically round the clock. So something must be going on here for them to be sending P-8s all the time. And this area of Poland right here is critical for NATO to be able to resupply the Baltics. If the Baltics were to get attacked by Belarus or Russia, NATO could send in equipment through the port of Gdynia and Gdańsk in northern Poland here. Okay, and this is just a very important port for Poland too. A lot of equipment also goes into Ukraine from these ports here. Okay, we also have some major breaking news. The U.S. Navy has sent an Ohio class submarine with 154 Tomahawk missiles to Norway for the first time in history. And this is the USS Florida. Now, if you don't know what an Ohio class sub is, we have 18 of them here in the U.S. 14 of them carry the Trident II ballistic missiles, which are part of our nuclear triad. And then 4 of them have been converted to carry Tomahawk missiles. Now, a lot of people think that these are just conventional Tomahawk missiles, but they're not. Okay, these Tomahawk missiles have nuclear warheads on them because the Tomahawk missile was originally designed for delivering nuclear weapons. It actually wasn't originally designed for conventional use. It's just that we've adapted them for conventional use, but they're actually designed for delivering the W-80 nuclear warhead, which has a 150 kiloton blast yield if it's turned all the way up to its maximum blast. And so if you think about how much firepower is on this USS Florida, 154 Tomahawk missiles, and each one of them could be carrying a W-80 warhead with over 100 kilotons of blast yield, okay? To put that in perspective, the Hiroshima Nagasaki bombs dropped on Japan in World War II were not more than 20 kilotons. So each one of these Tomahawk missiles could be carrying a nuclear warhead that is at least 5 times as powerful as the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs, and 154 of them on just one of these, okay? And so, in the event of a nuclear war, this Ohio class sub with the Tomahawk missiles can penetrate enemy air defenses, and they can also be used to conduct tactical nuclear strikes if there's some type of an escalation in Europe and they don't want to go strategic, they don't want to launch strategic missiles. This gives them a tactical option with smaller yield, and the cruise missiles can penetrate enemy air defenses. And we have four of them. Each one has 154 Tomahawk missiles. So that's 600 Tomahawk missiles, potentially each one with a nuclear warhead on it. And the thing with Tomahawk missiles is they're very accurate. They're much more accurate than ballistic missiles. Okay. Cruise missiles in general are much, much more accurate than ballistic missiles. Okay. So these could be used to neutralize parts of Russia's nuclear triad in the early stages of a nuclear war. These could be used to also preemptively strike Russian missile silos and certain targets in Russia before Russia would be able to actually launch their missiles at us. Okay, so this could be for a preemptive strike, a first strike on Russia, a surprise attack. They would not detect these cruise missiles coming, and they would immediately destroy all of Russia's missile silos. Okay, and we have 600 of these missiles. That's more than enough to destroy all of Russia's silos. That's at least enough for two missiles dedicated to each silo to ensure destruction. So this is a serious move by the U.S. And just about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, the U.S. Landed a B-2 stealth bomber in Norway. And the B-2 stealth bomber can carry the B-61 and B-83 gravity bombs. And the B-83 gravity bomb has a blast yield of over a megaton, and they can carry like 16 of them, which is just massive. Okay, I think maybe even more. I forget the exact number. It's like 16 or 20, something in there. Okay, that is a massive amount of firepower. And we have three B-2s in Iceland right now. And then the one went to Norway and did a ground refueling exercise. And it's possible that it stayed in Norway. But regardless, whether it's in Norway or Iceland doesn't matter. The fact that we have three B-2s in Iceland means that those B-2s are in the theater. Okay, Iceland is a perfect spot for B-2s because they're close enough to the European theater, but they have a body of water in between Russia and them. So they have natural distance and a natural barrier, the water basically, so they can hang out there in Iceland. And if something happens, they can just take to the air and immediately start striking targets not far away, some critical targets that Russia has. They have their Northern Fleet bases in Murmansk in the Kola Peninsula. That's where they have 2/3 of their nuclear armed submarines. The U.S. could send a B-2, just one B-2, to Yagelnaya Naval Base and annihilate the whole thing, and then still have more nukes on board to annihilate other bases as well. Okay, so this is a huge move, guys. Absolutely huge. An Ohio class sub carrying 154 Tomahawk missiles to Norway, moving to Norway for the first time in history. So it made a visit to Tromsø, Norway on September 14th, 2023. Okay, so this is just huge news, guys. And late last night, we had a nuke sniffer plane that patrolled the Sea of Japan near the Korean Peninsula. And it makes me wonder if the US has intelligence that Kim Jong un is going to be doing a nuclear test soon, either underground or he may even test one right here in the Sea of Japan, which would be extremely provocative. But these nuke sniffer planes, the Constant Phoenix, they can detect radiation in the atmosphere. And so this plane flew uh, across Japan all the way down to Okinawa and then back, and it made two paths. So it did it twice, okay, in the same night. So it went down to Okinawa and back, and it did that twice, two laps like that, okay, in one night, which is very, very unusual. So North Korea is definitely planning some kind of nuclear test. We also have some breaking news that Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is scheduled to visit Capitol Hill next week, according to the Associated Press. And apparently, Congress is debating whether or not to give another $21 billion in aid for Ukraine. So looks like he might make a speech again, or he may just meet with the congressman. We also have some breaking news coming from Finland. Finland is banning entry to all Russian registered vehicles. And this comes just a day after all the Baltic countries banned entry of Russian registered cars. Okay, so now all the Baltic countries and and Finland are banning Russian registered vehicles. That is a huge move, guys, and it's definitely going to escalate the situation. Putin is definitely going to not be happy about that, because there is a large Russian minority in the Baltic countries, and I'm not sure about Finland. I don't think there's a lot in Finland, but definitely things are escalating, guys. Okay, both sides are ratcheting things up. And if you missed my update earlier, I highly recommend you watch it, but I'll give you a brief summary because it's so important. We were literally on the verge of nuclear war last September. Okay, the closest we've ever come to nuclear war was last September. Okay, and what happened was we had a British reconnaissance plane, an RC 135 rivet joint that was flying over the Black Sea, and two Russian Sukhoi 27 fighter jets were sent out by Russia to monitor the recon plane. And one of the pilots apparently misunderstood the ground commander, and the ground commander said something like, "You have the target," and he misinterpreted that as basically getting a green light to launch missiles at that recon plane. And so he fired a missile. He actually fired it, and by the grace of God, the missile uh, wasn't able to lock on for some reason to the rivet joint. Maybe the rivet joint has some kind of passive countermeasures that basically jammed the missile and prevented the missile from locking on. Because it is a reconnaissance plane, they have a lot of radars and stuff like that. Maybe there's some kind of top secret technology for these rivet joints to be able to jam missiles and things like that. So maybe they had their jamming on, and maybe they jammed that missile and it wasn't able to lock on. And apparently, the other Russian fighter pilot was then arguing with the one that launched the missile, and because he didn't want to fire the missile, and he said that the pilot was misinterpreting it, and so they were going back and forth. And the whole time, the RC 135, the recon plane, was listening in because they have special eavesdropping equipment, and they were listening into everything. Okay, and so it's confirmed now that this Russian fighter pilot literally launched a missile at a British recon plane with 30 British uh, crew members on board. Okay, 30 British servicemen. Okay, if that missile would have hit the RC 135, it would have been nuclear war. Okay, it would have immediately broke out to World War III and then eventually escalate to nuclear war. Okay, this is very, very serious, guys. Nobody's talking about it. The media is quiet about it. But this is literally the closest we've ever come to nuclear war, was last September. Okay. And I'm sure there's been other incidents like this that we don't know about. Okay. This is probably just the tip of the iceberg. Okay. They don't tell us everything. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we will never know about. So get prepared, guys. Okay. Make sure you have all your preps in order. I'm not saying you should run up your credit cards. I'm not saying you should do anything crazy or paranoia, any kind of paranoid activities. Okay. But you should definitely have a nuclear war survival plan. You should think about where you would go to survive the fallout, because fallout is the number one threat for most Americans after a nuclear war. Okay. The fallout is going to be the biggest killer, not so much the blast and the heat and things like that. It's going to be the fallout, because the fallout is going to spread across all of North America. No matter where you are, you're going to get some degree of fallout, and most Americans are not prepared. They don't know what to do in a nuclear war. They don't know about radiation. They don't know about what's a suitable fallout shelter. So educate yourself. I'll leave a link to some of my nuclear war survival videos. I've done an entire series on how to survive nuclear war. Okay. And I know a lot of you guys think it's not survivable, but really you don't have a choice. You know, what are you going to do? Just sit around and die a slow and painful death from radiation poisoning? You know, I don't want to be in that situation. I'm not saying you should invest $100,000 in a bunker. Simple things like having an underground structure that you can go to, whether it's your basement, whether it's the basement of your apartment building, the basement of your school, the basement of your university, some kind of large shopping mall. Okay, any kind of structure that is densely constructed of reinforced concrete and has underground levels is going to protect you. Even big box stores like Walmart or Home Depot can protect you simply because they're so massive. You're going to have a lot of distance between yourself and the radiation outside, because the fallout is going to settle on the roofs of the buildings and also on the ground. So that's where the radiation is going to be coming from. But, you know, radiation's not constant. It weakens over certain distances via the inverse square law. Okay. So as you increase your distance, the radiation weakens exponentially. So in some cases, even just being 50 yards away from a radiation source, you wouldn't even know that there's any radiation there. Okay, but as you get closer, it increases exponentially. So even just going into like a Home Depot can protect you if you get into the middle of the store and you hunker down, you bring water, you bring food, and you stay there for 2 weeks. It sucks, but you know it's better than getting radiation poisoning. It's a slow and miserable death. Okay. Um, and if you missed my update earlier, we also have some breaking news that Russia expelled 2 U.S. diplomats, basically saying that those diplomats were helping a Russian spy, and they were trying to spy on Russia, basically. Okay. And also, Romania increased flight restrictions along their border with Ukraine, in addition to creating bomb shelters now and air raid sirens, evacuating certain towns. They're now creating flight restrictions. Okay, no piloted or unmanned planes can get within 19 miles of the border with Ukraine at an altitude of less than 4,000 meters, which is pretty high. 4,000 meters is, that's going to be like over 12,000 feet. Okay. We also have some new satellite imagery showing the S-400 missile system that was destroyed by Ukraine in Crimea. Okay, so here's a before and after. So here were the S-400 launchers. You can see the launcher vehicles here. And then here you can see this is after they were hit by the Storm Shadow missiles. Okay, these were Storm Shadow missiles that hit these S-400s. And also, Ukraine destroyed that Kilo class submarine, the first submarine they ever destroyed, also with Storm Shadows. Those are British missiles that they're using. Okay. So there's a potential that Russia could say that, yeah, Britain is a part of the conflict now. And, we'll have to wait and see how things play out, but it looks like the situation is just continuing to escalate. And we also have some more breaking news coming from the Russian Defense Ministry. They reported that Ukraine again tried to attack a Black Sea Fleet warship using naval drones. This time, Ukraine targeted their Karakurt class corvette named the Askold, that's spelled Askold, which is a warship capable of firing the Caliber cruise missiles. And so apparently the attack failed, but that's another attack on the Black Sea Fleet. In addition to the sub and the warship that was destroyed, now these S-400s. Ukraine is really going behind enemy lines here, and I think it's going to continue, and the situation is going to continue to escalate. So please make sure you guys are getting prepared. Okay, the U.S. has moved a Ohio class submarine to Norway for the first time ever, literally just a week after they moved a B-2 to Norway. This is huge news, guys. 154 Tomahawk missiles, each capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. Okay, you don't move something like that into an area unless you're expecting something to happen. All right, and then the B-2 as well, and then the B-52 today. All right, so things are escalating. I'll keep you guys updated. Make sure you have my notifications turned on, so every time I upload, you'll get notified. So that's pretty much it, though. Take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.